Welcome to the Polity Prelims program. My name is Atish Mathur and this is my Telegram channel. Do join this channel for regular updates, materials and other questions. Today we start with the very first edition on the preamble. This is our very first video. Through this video, we will be covering 5 very basic questions. First, what are some quotable quotes on the preamble? Second, the meanings of certain key terms. Third, the terms that were added to the preamble later. Fourth, the status, significance, and relevance of the preamble. And fifthly, summarizing the kind of questions that are asked in the preamble. So let's dive in. Quotable quotes on the preamble. Now, some of you might be wondering, what is the possibility of this being asked in the prelims exam? For example, you will see this asterisk across this entire presentation. This asterisk denotes that a question has been asked in the previous years. So yes, there is a possibility on this to be asked. So your question should be, if that's the case, how do we go about it? You don't need to know the names of the people who have authored these quotes. You don't need to know the exact quotes as well. All you need to know is broadly what are they trying to say. So for example, the 3 things which are most popularly said about the preamble are that A, it is the identity card of the Constitution. B, it is the vision of the makers of the Constitution. And C, it is the soul, jewel, horoscope or keynote of our Constitution. Now, in the previous years, there has been a question from here. The question was, which of the following reflects the mind of the makers of the Constitution? There were 4 options given: the preamble, fundamental rights, directive principles of state policy, and fundamental duties. Now, clearly, if you know, the question is saying which of this reflects the mind would mean you're reflecting something that you would want to achieve. This means vision. So the correct answer would have been the preamble to the Constitution. I know this might sound simple, but when you're attempting the prelims paper, even the simplest questions we often tend to get wrong because we tend to overthink. And the first thing that we have to learn about getting polity right, achieving 100% accuracy, is strictly not overthinking. In fact, the preamble is based on the Objectives Resolution, which was authored by our very first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Now, this is also an important piece of information which may be asked as a part of constitutional legal history, which seems to have been popular in the last few years. And this is all you need to know as far as quotable quotes are concerned. Next. This is the text of the preamble. From this text, we will be extracting certain key terms and explaining these key terms in the simplest form for you. But before that, the text of the preamble teaches us something very important. It tells us a specific date, 26th November 1949. This is the year where the preamble was enacted. In fact, the Constitution was enacted and it was also adopted. 26th January 1950 is when the Constitution was enforced. So the enactment date versus the enforcement date. Okay. This day today is celebrated as the Constitution Day or Law Day, and there is a historical significance to why this date was chosen. And as you all would know, this date is absolutely celebrated as the Republic Day. So you can always go back, open up your modern history books and figure out why this date was specifically chosen. But this is originated from the very preamble. This is important and must be done. Let's move to the key terms. meaning of certain keywords. The idea behind this is to give you the simplest meaning of these terms, because the trick in the prelims exam is a very simple one. They will ask you the simplest and the most basic and the least controversial meaning of each of these words. In fact, there have been several questions from these particular words. So let's go over them one by one. The first is sovereign. This, in one line, means the country is free to conduct any external and internal affairs without any interference. Now, I can understand a lot of you would think of this in the current times, where countries face the threat of sanctions, where countries are sometimes bound by international documents that they ratify. But don't worry about that. The simplest explanation is sovereignty means the absolute independence of a nation. And if you get something closest to this in your prelims option, please mark this as right. Okay? Socialist or socialism. Now, of course, this is a very widely debated term, and the context and the meaning of this term changes from time to time. But what is the basic principle? The basic principle is the role of the government as a regulator, facilitator, and provider of resources and welfare. Now, of course, the degree of government involvement may increase or may decrease given the period of time. For example, from the era of the license permit Raj to the government owning certain key basic industries to today the government promoting foreign direct investment. From MG Narega to PM Mudra loans, there are several instances of the role of the government in varying capacities. But what is the basic principle? The role of the government as a regulator, facilitator, and provider of resources and welfare. Third, secular or secularism. Now, this has three very simple meanings. These meanings are further explained in the subsequent videos on our discussion on fundamental rights. Now, as you would know, India has a different format of secularism. Largely, there are two formats of secularism, active as well as passive. Now, we will get into the details of this when the time is right, when we do fundamental rights. But what is the basic explanation? Secularism means three things. One, the state has no official religion. Two, the state shall not be biased in any form against a religion. Now, this bias could be a positive bias or a negative bias. Both of this is not permitted. And thirdly, all religions will be promoted equally. This is possibly why you would have heard of a Shirdi Trust, to a Tirupati Trust, to the government helping with the Badrinath or the Kedarnath Yatras, to sometimes special Air India flights for Hajj Yatras, to all possible government-sponsored or government-facilitated activities. This is to promote all religions equally. This is secularism. Democracy. Now, there has been a question here. Democracy or democratic? The simplest meaning of this is that the government is elected by the people. And as you can see, there is an asterisk right there. This means there would have been a question. And in fact, there was a question. And it was a very simple question. The question was, democracy's superior virtue lies in which of the following? The first was the character of ordinary men and women. Second option was methods to strengthen executive leadership. The third was a superior individual with dynamism and vision. And fourth was a band of dedicated party workers. Now you can simply apply elimination. What do you know? Democracy is a government which is elected by the people. Any form, any format, that's okay. But the people must be electing it. Which means the last option, which talks about a band of dedicated party workers, is incorrect, because this plays no role in electing somebody. This may be facilitating the party programs and party processes, but it does not elect somebody. Second, a superior individual with dynamism and vision. Now, this automatically becomes wrong because a superior individual with dynamism and vision does not reflect the representative character of democracy. Because you're never choosing just one person, you're choosing a bunch of representatives who would essentially be taking care of the voices of the people. And third, the methods of strengthening executive leadership. Now, democracy is about getting people into public office. Democracy is about ensuring a free, a fair, and an accountable process of ensuring that the right representatives are holding public office. It has nothing to do with how qualitative your executive leadership is going to be from a very, very simplistic point of view. So, this option also becomes incorrect. However, the first option, the very first option, the intelligence and character of ordinary men and women. This is how this question was asked in the exam. Clear? Now, let's move to next. Republic. Simple enough. Republic means the head of the state is elected. The people are the ultimate sovereign. Now, this is something which is also reflected in the core text of the preamble, the very first words. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved and give to ourselves this constitution. Clear on this? So, the people are the ultimate sovereign, and people can hold public offices. They are not reserved for an elite class, they are not reserved for somebody with privilege. Okay, this is what republicanism as an idea means. Justice. Now, there have been two questions here. Let's understand the simplest one line meaning of justice as per the preamble: fair, social, economic, and political opportunities and the treatment of people. That's all it means. So, this would mean making sure that there is no caste discrimination, making sure everybody has the opportunity to economically prosper, and making sure people get equal political rights. And in case any of this gets violated, you're able to treat people fairly. This is the simplest explanation of justice. And in fact, there have been two questions on justice. In fact, the very first question was economic justice as one of the objectives of the Indian Constitution has been provided in. First option was Preamble and Fundamental Rights. The second option was Preamble and Directive Principles. The third option was Fundamental Rights and Directive Principles. And the fourth option was none of the above. So automatically the fourth option is out. Now, the third option was Fundamental Rights and Directive Principles of State Policy. Now, fundamental rights can never guarantee economic prosperity because this would burden the state, which means you're left with preamble and fundamental rights and preamble and directive principles. So automatically fundamental rights gets eliminated from the first option itself, and you're left with preamble and preamble and directive principles of state policy, which often speak of equal work for equal pay. Clear on this? This is a trick to remember. Fundamental rights will never guarantee economic prosperity, because if this does not happen, you would have to sue the state, and the state may not have the resources to guarantee economic prosperity. But that is why you'll always find this in the preamble as well as the directive principles, as both of them are not legally enforceable. Right? In the same way, you would often see multiple questions on justice. Clear on this? Now, let's move to the next question. Liberty. Now, liberty is the next idea. Simple enough. Let's look at the grammatical meaning of liberty. It means a reasonable freedom to people to flourish. That's it. We all understand nothing in this world is absolute. So whether it's equality or fraternity or justice or anything, it will never be absolute. So what is liberty for? Liberty is for you to do something. Now, what would you want to do? You would want to achieve the very best for yourself. And in fact, there have been past year questions here. In fact, one of the most contentious questions of 2019 was actually this question. In the context of polity, which one would you accept as the most appropriate definition of liberty? A. Protection against the tyranny of rulers. B. Absence of restraint. C. Opportunity to do whatever one likes. And D. Opportunity to develop oneself fully. Now, what is the simplest way to eliminate? Protection against the tyranny of rulers. This does not necessarily give the individuals the ability to flourish. No doubt, if you don't have a tyrannical ruler, you may be able to perform better, but there could be other reasons why you're not performing better. Second, absence of restraint. If there is no restraint, then liberty can often be abused, and therefore this also becomes wrong. The third option, the opportunity to do whatever one likes. Now, here also there is a problem. Whatever one likes. What if one likes to do something which is illegal? Would you allow somebody to do this just because you believe in the concept of liberty? No. So, what are you left with? To fully develop oneself. And things like these, most of the students I know who did not think very logically, who did not attempt it in a very, very simple form, got overcomplicated with the interpretations of liberty, attempted this question wrongly. So don't do that. Clear on this? Understood? Simple enough? Now, the second question that was also asked was, which of the following objectives is not embodied in the preamble? Liberty of thought, economic liberty, liberty of expression, and liberty of belief. Now, I've told you, the key word is economic. You can never give full economic liberty because A, it may cross the legal line, and 2, it may cause unnecessary stress on the states. Right? Let's move to the second last one, equality. Equality in its simplest explanation means to treat everyone equally. So how do you treat everyone equally? By making sure you're not treating anyone specially. So the absence of special treatment amongst people. This was also a question very recently, in 2017 in fact. The question was, one of the implications of equality in society is the absence of privileges, restraints, competition, and ideology. Now, you have the freedom for ideology, and ideology can't be quantified as a differentiation mechanism, so it's eliminated. Competition. If you do not have competition, you do not have social progress, economic progress, political progress. So just because you have equality doesn't mean you don't have competition. Third, restraints. The same logic that you apply to liberty. Restraints can never be absolute. So what is left? Privileges. Privileges is another word for special treatment. Again, a lot of students faltered in this because they did not look at the most simple explanation of a specific word. And next is fraternity, which is nothing but a common sense, a sense of commonality amongst people, a sense of togetherness, a sense of belonging. This could mean single citizenship, so on and so forth. Clear? Now, the trick here is you will get a question on an interpretation of this. When you do, remember these basic one lines. Because if you know these lines, then you look at an option closest to these lines of explanation. Clear? Alright, let's go ahead. Terms that were added to the preamble. Now, the 42nd Amendment, 1976. Always remember, 4 plus 2 is equal to 6, so 1976. The other major amendment that happened in this decade was 1978. Now you may not remember what number it was, so just see 4 plus 4 is 44th Amendment, 4 plus 2, 42nd Amendment, right? A lot of you get confused here, but remember 42nd Amendment. Now, how do you solve this confusion? You know that the preamble is largely symbolic. The three terms that were added were socialist, secular, and integrity. Let's figure this out. Don't you think this means at least an enhanced role of the government? And we know that this era was the era of the enhanced role of the government. You would have gone through my video on Keshananda Bharti, the link of which is in the description box below. You would have heard of land reforms. You would have heard of privy purses. You would have heard of nationalization of banks. The government was in full force, nothing but reflecting socialism. So why not add it symbolically to the preamble? Clear on this? This, of course, was eventually removed, and a lot of it was overturned by the 44th Amendment, the most sensible amendment of 1978. So, this is a quick way to remember this. The 42nd Amendment, 1976, added socialist, secular, and the word integrity. Okay? Right? Good. Now, let's look at the basic questions, because the pre is going to always ask you basic questions. So you don't need to know the background judgment of Keshavananda Bharti for this. They will not ask you according to which judgment the significance of the preamble is X or Y. Simple yes or no questions. Is the preamble a part of the Constitution? Yes. Can the preamble be amended? Yes. You just saw this. This is nothing but the amendment to the preamble. Can you take the government to court for violating the preamble? No. If they're only violating the preamble, you can't take them to court. Can the courts singularly or only rely on the preamble while delivering a judgment? No. It has to be plus something else. It has to be any other law, it could be a provision of the Constitution, but no. The courts cannot singularly rely on the preamble while giving a judgment. But can the courts rely on the preamble amongst other things? Absolutely yes. So let us say you're looking at Article 19 violation, 21 violation. The courts can say not only is Article 19 and 21 violated, it also is reflected in the preamble. The courts often refer to the preamble to understand what the intent of the makers of the Constitution were, to get more clarity on the judgment. So, is the preamble in itself justiciable or enforceable? The answer is a clear no. Is the preamble in itself justiciable or enforceable? The answer is a no. Clear? You must know these 1111 lines, and that is all. Okay? Next. So, what kind of questions are asked? 1. Poetic quotes on the preamble. 2nd, meaning of keywords. And 3rd, significance of the preamble. Now, no doubt there is a 4th kind, but it is not just about the preamble. It's about which of the following is in the preamble: fundamental rights, directive principles, or fundamental duties. Once I'm finished with parts 1 till 4, I'll give you a very simple trick to solve these kind of questions, and you will never, ever, ever go wrong. But as far as the pre is concerned, this is all you need to know. Clear? So, the trick question: what kind of a bill and what kind of a majority would be needed to amend the preamble? Option A, a constitutional amendment outside Article 368, which is like an ordinary law. The constitutional amendment under Article 368 without state ratification. A constitutional amendment under Article 368 with state ratification, or none of the above. You could specify if you have a specific answer in the comment box. Please post your answer in the comment box. From amongst all of you who post the correct answer, we will, through a lucky draw, choose one person, and we will, if the person wants, we'd love to give them a 1-year free membership, a free online subscription to the Hindu newspaper. Okay, if the person already has it, then we'll move, or the person doesn't need it, then we'll move to the second person. Clear on this? So this is the preamble for you. Simple enough. Now You can refer to the reading list that I have enclosed in the Telegram channel. The link of it is also in the description box below, and revise it once. You can go through the past year questions. In fact, I have done 2011 to 2019 past year papers on YouTube. I've solved each of these papers using logic or simple reasoning. You can find the links of these videos on my Telegram channel, which I strongly urge you to subscribe. I hope this was worth your time. If you did like this video, and if you would have any comment or suggestions to make, please let me know. Please possibly hit the subscribe button. Please comment your answers. Do share this video. I know I sound like a YouTuber, but well, one has to adapt with adapting times. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this was worth it. Thank you.